Good afternoon. Call back into session the Board of Supervisors meeting for January 24, 2017. And after a brief recess, we're back with the afternoon agenda. We don't believe we had any items continued from this morning, so we have a fairly abbreviated schedule, but we know we have a hearing item and maybe some other items. So, Flo, if you want to call the roll and then take us right into our agenda, we'll get started.
Absolutely. Supervisors Cerna?
Here.
Kennedy?
Here.
Peters? Here. Frost? Here. Natoli?
Here.
And you have a quorum.
Okay.
For your first item this afternoon, we do need a motion to continue this to February 28th. It's the Cortland, Lock, and Walnut Grove Special Planning Area amendments.
Okay. Anyone here to speak to that? And if not, I'll move to continue the item. Please vote.
Second.
Yep. Please vote.
Unanimous vote.
All right. And I would just note as you're going to read the next item, and that if you wish to speak to any agenda item, which the next one is a hearing, I would ask that please fill out a speaker identification form if you intend to speak, and if not, if something moves you during the course of the hearing, you're certainly welcome to, but would ask you in advance so we can call upon you once we've had the staff presentation and such. So, all right, with that, Flo, we're going to call the next item, please.
Okay, so for your next item, it's the appeal of the Planning Commission revocation of the Howe and Operations Use Permit and Variance Project. It's a public hearing to appeal the revocation of a use permit and variance for Howe Operations located at 5260 Bradshaw Road in the Vineyard community.
Okay, with that, Leanne.
I'm going to lead off here, Leanne Moffett, your planning director, with a couple of logistics items. We have been just informed that the appellant has a new attorney who I think would like to approach the board with regard to a continuance. From the staff perspective, we would like to get some of the information out there. There has already been one continuance. This is an issue, and we would like to at least give a staff presentation. I've also been reminded by county council that in the case of an appeal, it is often common to have the appellant present first and then staff rebut. I'm not sure if it'd be helpful to the board to have the staff presentation so you have the context. So we need to sort of decide the order of who you'd like to hear from first.
Okay.
And whether you want to hear from the appellant or from staff first.
Okay.
We also have representatives of Code Enforcement, EMD, and AQMD here as well today.
Okay. Well, thanks, Leanne. Just Krista, Leanne mentioned already a previous continuance, but it went to the Planning Commission in December, so.
It went to the Planning Commission. It was headed to the board. The appellant requested a delay, and it was delayed.
Okay, that was what we're talking about, because I didn't think we had continued it, at least formally, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Krista, what would you recommend?
My recommendation is that you hear from the appellant's new counsel as to their reasons for a request for continuance and make a decision on that up front rather than go through the hearing and decide that after the fact.
All right. Again, and we did get copies. Obviously, there's a staff report, and you have the visual presentation that you were prepared to make, so we do have benefit of having that. I assume the appellant and his counsel has that as well. So.
All right. And then when and if you get to a staff presentation, Jessica Brandt on behalf of planning will be the staff person who's here to give that presentation.
Okay.
Today.
Well, sit on the edge of your seat, Jessica, and we'll see what happens here. So, all right.
And you should allow staff as well to comment on whether they think the continuance is appropriate.
Okay. So is this sworn testimony, Krista?
No, not necessarily.
It's not. Okay. All right. I don't have a speaker form. I assume you're counsel for the appellant, so if you'll come forward, state your name, and then we'll go from there. And you'll.
Hi, my name's Nabil Saman. I'm an attorney, and I represent Gary Howe on this project. I appreciate you taking the time to hear our appeal. I appreciate the county, all their work they've done on getting this matter, the use permit done. It's a tremendous amount of work on this project. So the reason we're asking to be heard is because my clients recently retained me. I've gone to the project, and he has a clear understanding that he didn't do the things necessary to be in compliance. There's no way around saying that in a nice way. He did things he shouldn't have done. He apologizes for it. He's agreed to pay whatever fees are necessary. And he's, I think importantly, retained my office so that I could act between a liaison between the county and the appellant and to get things done. So there's kind of a new sheriff in town. I'll take it upon myself to assist the county and make a viable project go to work for the county and employ probably 5 people. The reason we're asking to get a continuance and opposing the revocation is because the project is a great project for that lot. I've been out to the lot. I've done a lot of work in the county. I grew up in the county, and and that's why the use permit was approved. It's the perfect use for that property. The conditions required for the use permit are very simple things. They should have been done a long time ago. Unfortunately, they weren't. Between the recession, some requirements on the diesel equipment that's in the field, and money has put my client in a kind of a catch-22. In addition to his health, was in the hospital for a while. So a bunch of little things came into play. That doesn't mean my client's not at fault. My client accepts fault. And we can get the, I've had the engineer drop a new set of plans for the minor things for the use permit. One was to build a brick wall, one was to move a driveway, one was to do frontage improvements. And while my client has not been in compliance, he's spent a ton of money to try to move this project forward. For example, a telephone pole had to be moved. That cost 25 grand, that pole's been moved. That was a big deterrent to getting the front sidewalk done. So we can move forward on that once we get a set of plans. That's an easy deal. The county can approve those in 30 days. Building the brick wall, that's an easy deal. That can be done in 30 days. Moving the driveway, easy deal. So those are the main conditions. And then the bigger and larger problem is there's this conflict between departments on this diesel equipment that's in the field. So we have to sell. I had a moment to talk to staff out in the hallway. The equipment that's there, that has to be sold out of state. And that's fine, those are the laws, and we'll obviously abide by the law. But that's a $300,000 or $400,000 piece of equipment that now has to be replaced. And so my client's got some partners involved to where we can invest and get the new equipment on the site and get rolling and get the project going and making money. And you know, we were talking about this homeless situation and blue collar people being out of work, and I mean, this is a great job for those kinds of people to be out working on. It's 5 jobs that could be going.
So with the equipment that you're speaking of, and I know we have Air Quality District representatives in the audience, is that the shredder, the chipper?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's what you're talking about. Okay.
And additionally, there's some benefits to this project going forward for the county because they want to get a permanent easement for Fruit Ridge to go through this project.
Are we going to hear the project right now?
Right, I thought we were going to first address the reason for request for continuance and then let the board rule on that, and then if
Well, he
the
was
board-
kind of going
yeah.
into it in great detail, but okay, so I think
But if we got to have a staff report then, if we're going to do this, don't you think?
we can have a staff report. I think he was laying out the reasons why I think the things
Okay.
they thought they could accomplish, why they would want a continuance for, and I don't know what period of time are you asking?
I think if we can get a 30-day continuance, I can make arrangements to meet with staff, and then we can all meet back and decide whether the use permit should be revoked, or if my clients found a new attitude to get this project done and get our set of plans in and show the county that we have,
Right.
you know, set in motion things to comply.
Okay.
And I think we can do that. And so that's why we want the continuance. So
All
I
right,
have an
great.
opportunity. I just got retained. I need an opportunity to show that we're in good faith.
Okay, very good. Okay, well, thank you for in standby, but we appreciate the on behalf of Mr. Howe and parties of interest here is you've requested continuance for a minimum 30 days, and now at this point, I guess we need, if you wanted to stand by, we can hear briefly from staff. I guess, Krista, any reaction, Leanne? We won't get into a full staff report. I think we don't need that at this point in time. So if you want to just have a seat just for a second, and Leanne.
Certainly. I mean, I will say on the staff perspective, I am hearing some frustrations that staff has long been seeking compliance and doesn't feel that there's much evidence heretofore for the person coming into compliance. So we are prepared to move forward with the hearing today, but obviously it is a decision of the board as to whether you want to grant that request or not.
All right, very good. Let me ask colleagues, are there questions of Leanne and or the appellant? If not, I will weigh in here in a moment, but yeah, Ms. Ross?
Is there anything that prohibits us from moving it forward since it's gone this far?
You mean from having the hearing today?
Yes.
No, it's a request for continuance. It's up to the board entirely in your discretion as to whether you want to grant the continuance. Otherwise, it's properly noticed and everyone's here, and you can certainly proceed today if you decide that there is no good cause for continuance.
And I guess I have a question. Is the business owner proposing to fix things within 30 days, or are they proposing to just show that they're ready to fix things in 30 days? Because I think this is down the road quite a ways.
No, I think in 30 days we will agree that there will be no activity on the lot that's improper or illegal. 1. 2, we'll have all the fees paid within 30 days that are outstanding and due. Number 2. Number 3, we'll have a set of plans to the county within the next 5 days. So those could be approved for the brick wall, moving the driveway, and the frontage improvements. 3 and 4, those plans will be underway probably within 30 days. As soon as we get an approved set of plans, we will have those plans underway. So within 30 days, this project could be up and running. As far as compliance, the equipment will have to be sold and new equipment acquired before any activity happens on the lot. That's probably a $400,000 investment, and but all the other things that the county wants and the fees, the easements that the county wants can all be done in the next 30 days.
But I guess so your client has the capacity to do all that?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
And if we're given the 30 days, we'll prove it to you.
Okay, thanks. Mr. Cerner?
Thank you. Leanne, is this the first time we've kind of had we've run into this particular circumstance for this issue where there's been a request of the board for a continuance so that the property owner can come into compliance? I'm asking the question because I'm looking for whether or not there's a pattern of buying time, quite frankly.
I think our concern is not necessarily about the fees. I don't think we're concerned about the money. I think if you hear from staff, it's more about the buildup of material on the property and the fire danger and other dangers associated with that. And so I think we would be concerned that there's a pattern of continuance in terms of it's not about getting fees within 30 days or even plans in. It's more about dealing with the material that's on the site. But there are staff who've done more site investigations than I have, who have more factual information.
To me, that's an important piece of information to know. So knowing that, I'd be interested in moving forward with the hearing as is today.
Okay. I don't know if other members want to weigh in. My inclination would be, again, the material hasn't just shown up overnight. It's been there for some time, and I know there's been orders to remove material, both the local enforcement agency through the Environmental Management Department, as well as Air Quality District been involved. As I read the staff report, I know in my briefing yesterday I asked this. I remember when we had the initial use permit come through several years ago. I'm familiar with the property. I haven't been down on the site recently. Actually, when GNR Trucking to the North came in, that was the last time I was, close to this property. But that's been a few years ago. But I guess I would say that this is the first time we've had this back before us. It's not like we had this before us and it got continued and somebody represented that they were going to do something in 30 days and then didn't do it. I think that may be part of what we would want to address. And again, if there's a desire by 3 members of this board to have a full hearing today, then we can certainly dispense with any more comments I'm going to make. But I would just say that I would be inclined, recognizing I think some of the frustration that was demonstrated in the staff report. I mean, words like being ignored and so forth and so on. Counsel for Mr. Howe has certainly, I think, addressed that. But all the I'm sorries or I admit that we're not in compliance don't necessarily cure what the existing issues are. And so I think that's what we're talking about here is what action would be taken. I think it does keep a fairly short leash if in fact 30 days, certain things are set in motion. But if the material is on site is a primary question at large here, maybe the appellant and the representative for the appellant could address that because I think if that's a primary concern beyond getting the conditions in place that were at the time of approval, whether they were frontage improvements or, sound walls or improved driveway entrances and so forth. If it is truly that material, that's the biggest concern here, then I think to your point, Mr. Cerna, and certainly to Ms. Frost's question as well, then I guess we should have some discussion around that, because if it's going to remain there while equipment is dispensed of and new equipment's got, I don't know if there's a way to get some equipment in there temporarily to take care of some of that and move that material off. And so I guess I would just pose that question, because maybe that's at the heart of whether we have a hearing here today or not. If there's I didn't hear you address that. And so, Leanne, if you let the appellant come forward, I'd like to know what the plan is for. We have photos of, I assume they're fairly current photos of the accumulation material. Obviously, that was the business that was going to be done here, but you haven't taken the raw material into the product and then moved it off a site. So what is the plan for that in the short term?
Well, in the short term, and it's consistent with our request for 30 days, is that it's so muddy and with the rain and everything. Not much can really honestly be done with that material in the next 30 days anyway. So by giving us a 30-day extension, you give my client an opportunity to shine and do what's right and show the county that he's a good citizen and get this project going. And we can't do anything out there in the mud there anyway. There's no fire danger, that the material's soaked through. If there was some concern about the material, I could address that with staff, any concerns they might have, and I can alleviate those concerns. Does that?
Yeah. So just let me ask you on the material that's been stockpiled. Then did the use permit, original use permit, did it cover that there was only an allowable portion that could be stockpiled at any given time? That's the issue here, that exceeds that. Okay, that was my presumption.
So the original use permit prohibited the back 500 feet from being used for stockpile. Yep. That material has been removed. Okay. So that was a violation. That violation's been fixed. There is still material on the project, but not in the back 500 feet. Okay.
There are some other code issues too, but
and I'm happy to sit down with staff. I spoke with them for a moment out in the hallway. I told them that I'm available at any time they can meet me, including tomorrow, to get on this project and make it happen in a proper way.
Well, and again, I'm appreciative of that. And again, I guess I need to hear from the full complement of my colleagues here. I represent the area, familiar with it, certainly familiar with the initial use permit, and again, it's an excavated area that certainly seemed appropriate with the separation from other residential uses and such. But the expectation, and again, I'm not going to continue to go over this, but the expectation is people will meet those conditions in order to conduct the activities in accordance with the entitlements that are given at the time, and that didn't occur. And I've obviously this has kind of been festering for some time. Some of these pictures we have in our material go back to May of 2015, nearly 2 years ago now, and I know that staff certainly has kept me informed as the enforcement action was progressing, and again, it wasn't a matter of just a few weeks ago somebody sent in somebody a letter and we're going to have a hearing before the Board of Supervisors. It's had a long progression, and again, recognizing the circumstances do arise, but in order to certainly maintain a level playing field for others who conduct businesses, I think there's a reliance on people's good faith that circumstances or not, nothing else to communicate, and I think that was where I kind of in the sense that there was really some frustration, is that folks that are here that are given the responsibility to bring the enforcement actions on behalf of the bodies they serve, whether it be the Board of Supervisors, the Air Quality District, or LEA. They're reasonable folks, and again, and I know that to be the case, and so I guess I would be inclined, again, but I want to hear from my colleagues to allow for a brief continuance, 30 days, to see what could be accomplished, recognizing some of the work on site is probably going to be in light of the weather, unless it quits raining and doesn't rain anymore this winter and spring. You can be hampered in doing some work, but I think in light, of the long journey to get to this point, and I think the concerns that have been expressed legitimately by our staff members, that there is a real need. I think you've stated it already, but I would just say that any empathy for the situation, if there isn't good faith progress made, significant progress made, it will be difficult if we come back in 30 days or whatever we set a date to come back to hear any excuses why not. So anyway, I would be inclined to support a brief continuance, but let me turn to my colleagues, and if there's desire to have a full hearing today, I know Mr. Cerna expressed that. Others may have alluded to it, so if you want to have a full hearing and then make that judgment, we certainly can do that.
I think if you're inclined to give us 30 days, that would give us the opportunity to, I can't personally fix the frustrations of the past, but I can give the board some assurances that I will give it 100% of my effort. I'm a retired lawyer. I've got a ton of time.
You were retired.
Yeah, I will make it happen.
Okay.
I'll be down here tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Thank you much. Okay, let me turn my colleagues in. So, is there a desire by the majority to have a hearing? Mr. Sir?
So I think I know the answer to this, but I'll ask Krista in any event. So it's obvious representation for the property owners, profusely explaining that there will be some affirmative action on behalf of his client. Is there anything besides his word that we can use as an instrument to memorialize that intent at this point?
Probably not. I mean, if you're inclined to give them the benefit of the doubt, I would say don't make a continuance more than 30 days, and then when you come back in 30, if there's been no progress, then I guess you know what to do then, but I don't know.
I mean, it's kind of a weird rock and a hard place, because you don't want to presuppose the action of this board, but I think it's pretty clear from my tone that what my disposition would be in 30 days, if not everything that has been communicated just now several times is not complete, you've put a bow on a decision that you probably won't like, at least from this board member. So, but I'm also very deferential and respect Supervisor Natoli, in whose district this issue resides. So I'm willing to go along with a continuance, but I got to tell you, I've seen this play out before so many times, and I'm somewhat of a junior member still on this board, where we're giving all kinds of verbal promises that just keep on repeating themselves. And it's one verbal promise after another. That's why I asked our community development director whether or not there's a pattern here. So all that said, I'm willing to support the motion if one is made by Supervisor Natoli to continue. But I think I made myself clear.
Yeah, I think you did. And I would just say, too, there's some of these conditions that need to be met that physically couldn't be done in the wet weather, like some frontage improvements and so forth, but there's a bonding capacity to do that, and so that would be an assurance that could be put in place in 30 days that would allow either a letter of credit. There are some different instruments that can be used, but because again, I just reasonably with the weather like it is, I wouldn't advise going out and digging up Bradshaw Road at this juncture and start putting in forms and sidewalks, at least until it dries out. But that's still not an excuse to move forward and find a path to get this stuff accomplished. But I will just say, too, my experience is that and it's been mixed. I mean, and there are times when people will, after having sorted things out, come into full compliance, and that's the last that's ever heard of it. In other cases, folks either continue to churn in the system and ultimately, if we end up in the courts, we do. But I guess my goal would be to get compliance. I think that, it's a business operation that, certainly went through environmental review, in consideration of the time the use permit was issued, in good faith by the county. there was not so good faith on the other side of keeping those conditions, and I acknowledge that. And again, I'm empathetic to the point to give a brief amount of time to show that good faith, and let's get this. You're either going to get it done or you're not, and then we're back here in a short amount of time to, I guess, evaluate that. And so I appreciate those comments. So I don't, Ms. Peters.
I just say, is this all air quality staff here? No.
EMD.
Oh, but on the same issue?
Correct.
So they've been sitting here for 3 hours?
Well, it was a 2:30. It was a 2:30 schedule. They weren't. No.
About 45 minutes.
Yeah. I'm kind of with Supervisor Cerna. I just soon hear it today, but you've got all the players here. There's some amount of investment in that. And I've been on the board long enough to see these things have trouble changing when we give a continuance, but that's what you want.
Supervisor Ross, Supervisor Kennedy, what's your inclination?
I'd be inclined to support the continuance, having been somebody brought in the position of representation late in the game like this, and if I get stung, I'll just remember it.
Okay. Ms. Frost, what's your thoughts?
And I think it's too bad that it got this far. And I'm inclined to support the continuance because I know if you can come in compliance, that you hopefully can move forward and have a new respect for the regulations and responding to them. And it's important to keep you working and keep those jobs in our county. And so I'm hoping that you'll be able to pull it together quickly and come in compliance and move forward in a positive direction with your business. So I would support it.
All right, sounds like there's, again, I appreciate my colleagues, again, who sat here through many hearings and some, similar to this, and I think everybody has an important perspective based upon our collective experience, but certainly in working with matters like this in our respective districts. So with that, I guess I would ask for a date to continue this to, and Leanne, you may be able to be helpful in this as well.
A date specific? You're looking for a date?
Yeah, looking for a date, yeah. Well, I think, Krista, maybe you could help with you and Leanne on a date if we were to give a 30-day, I guess probably maybe it'd be a few days longer than that, but.
Okay. The 28th at 2:30 is what clerk is saying?
Okay, 28th of February?
28th.
Okay.
Did we ask for some type of evidence of their capacity to to finance the repairs and finance the everything?
Well, I think that'll be part of the obligation. If you can't do it, in the next 30 days, which I think physically may be difficult to get improvement plans even, but I think showing the capacity, I think, good point, that they could get it done. So maybe you work out an instrument that could be presented to this board that would say, here's the money, and if they don't do it, we're going to do it for them because the money's there in the bank to do that. So.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what I was going to get up and say is, the equipment can't be used for the wood chipping on site. Obviously, it is wet and rainy, but we would like some concrete evidence, like a contract or monetary evidence that they have the capacity to move the excess material off the property in a timely manner.
And roughly, what's the estimate of the amount of material that has to be moved off?
I don't know. I'm holding 3,000 cubic yards.
Okay, that's a few truckloads.
That's a lot.
Few truckloads.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, then I would, I'm going to ask your concurrence. So we're going to continue this to February 28th for the appeal, and 2:30 in the afternoon. That's to be the motion. We'll take a vote here in a moment. And then the expectation is, as you've heard, and certainly you've cited it, your willingness to try to do that on behalf of your client, is to get as many things done between now and then, but I think to show evidence that what isn't done will be done and in a timely manner, and that there's financial capacity to do that, that'll be very critical too, because again, we'll be prepared at a point in time if progress hasn't been shown over the next 3 weeks. We've got in preparation to have staff here, and we'll open the hearing, and then people get a chance to.
We'll have plans submitted immediately, and
Okay.
I will have met with staff.
Okay.
Obviously, we can't do the work in this muddy situation.
Yeah.
We can't build a wall. We can't tear up the road. But all of the paperwork we can move forward with. We can give assurances to the county that we have the financial ability to. The site improvements are frankly pretty minimal. They're 150 grand. It's the equipment that's the problem.
Okay.
Thank you for your.
I think we need to have a very clear outline, and I would hopefully that staff, you may not agree with the continuance, but there's concurrence about the approach and how we will, assure that things, if they aren't done by 28th of February, that they'll be done, timely, because they're already past tense.
We will be moving forward immediately.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm prepared to second your motion. But I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I think it's important for you and your clients to understand that the reason you're hearing what you're hearing is not to be punitive because we woke up on the wrong side of the bed this morning, and
We had a 5-hour hearing.
Yeah, we did have a 5-hour hearing, but the point here is, we're, I think, all interested, staff and the board, in fair treatment of everyone. Everyone plays by the same rules, and so when you start approaching that line of ad hoc special consideration in instances like this, I get very uncomfortable doing that, quite frankly. And so it's not about being punitive against you. It's about really everyone following the same rules, laws that we expect compliance with.
Okay. All right. We have a motion, and then a second. Did I hear a second? Second. Okay.
Second it.
All right. Let's continue for 30 days. Well, actually, February 28th, 2:30. Please vote.
I'm sorry, can you please vote? I hit the wrong button. Can you please vote one more time? Unanimous vote.
Okay. All right. We'll wish you well in your endeavor, and hopefully we'll be in a different spot in 30 days. Thanks.
Supervisor Natoli, Chair, may I make a note for item 36? Your board continued this to February 28th. We didn't acknowledge a time, but we do have a time. It's at 2 p.m.
Okay, so we note that for the record that the motion included a 2 o'clock start time for that.
Thank you.
All right, do we have any appointments then to do?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Very
all right.
short list.
Short list.
For your nominations today, you are continuing to March 7th, the Consumnes Area Community Planning Advisory Council. You're continuing to February the 28th, Children's Coalition and the In-Home Supportive Services Advisory Committee. And for your matters today, we have 2 items. We have the Sacramento County Mental Health Board, and this looks like it is a Supervisor Cerna.
Please continue to March 7th.
And then Supervisor Kennedy?
District 2 nominates Lisa Ashley for the public interest position.
Okay. For your final, we have the South Sacramento Area Community Planning Advisory Council. Mr. Cerna?
District 1 seeks a continuance to March 7th, please.
And Supervisor Kennedy, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay. And that concludes your nominations.
Okay. Do we have any adjournments today?
Mr. President Tully,
Yes.
I just had a very brief announcement to make. The governor did proclaim a state of emergency for the counties that had enacted, so that allows us to get assistance from the state on road repairs, and also passes a request on to the federal government to help with any damage that we've had on our roads. Also, his enactment allows his Office of Emergency Services to work with us on the assessment damage that we've been doing and what amount of that disaster can we recover from the state. And his final declaration piece is that all agencies in the state that are impacted by this disaster to help the counties to recover. So the governor did make that action, so it's on to the federal government. So we're going to get some state relief once the feds declare that we will be eligible for federal funding too.
Okay, good. Anything else? I did heading on to your comments yet, but so any other comments under?
That was it.
That's it. Okay, the supervisor comments then? Here? Fine. Okay. I did, before we adjourn, have one adjournment then, and I want to acknowledge the passing of Bill William Mosier Jr. Actually, Bill Mosier IV, but he passed away a couple weeks ago. He was just 64 years of age, but part of a generational family that's cattle ranched and farmed in Sacramento County for 4 generations. Familiar names, certainly the Mosier family, but the Ledbetters and others in the eastern part of the county settled here many years ago, and certainly been a strong part of the Elk Grove and South County communities. During his lifetime, he was very active, certainly in ranching. That was, a lot of his life revolved around that. Had a cattle company. They ran cattle both here in Sacramento County and certainly in the foothills, adjacent counties, but in the South Lake Tahoe area. And the Barton Ranch, fairly good-sized ranch, was the summer range and family property there in South Lake Tahoe. And the casinos now occupy portions of that. Part has been put in environmental preserve, and there's still a portion of the ranch that the family owns. But he was a very easygoing person, one who was very generous, and occasion appeared before this board, but was active in mentoring young people. Certainly would always go the distance to help others, and was very supportive of the Project Ride in Elk Grove, and they hosted the annual. There was an annual sheriff's ride on their ranch that raised money for that great cause there in Elk Grove, and also served as a Western Festival part of the committee down there in the Elk Grove area for a number of years. But he loved agriculture. He loved his family. His wife, Kay, of 39 years, survives him, as does his daughter, Melanie, and grandchildren, Madeline and William. And I know that, again, he certainly played a big role in the lives of many folks in our county, and was a great supporter of all things good. So we want to send our condolences to the Mosier family, and to his wife and grandchildren and children, and to his mother, who still survives him as well, and he has 2 sisters that survive him. And with that, I'd like to adjourn in memory of Bill Mosier. Okay. And with that, then we will stand in adjournment until we come back 1:30 Thursday with closed session, right?
Correct.
Okay. Thanks.